December wrap-up time. I don't know why I just did that, but hey, we're gonna go with it. But as I just said, it is time to go through my books for December, wrap them all up, and basically almost finish wrapping up 2021. I think there's only one more video left after this one to do with 2021. Without further ado, let's move on to December 2021 wrap up. To break up the month or break down the month, I had 1 3-star read, 7 4-star reads, and 2 5-star reads, which was a pretty fantastic end to the year. And just to go through, rather than talk to you about what the books were about, I'm going to try a different tact where I'm just going to talk about why I enjoyed the book and the sort of feels that the book gave me, because I feel like I want to make my TBR books more about what they're about than I am going to be the wrap up. From January, if you see a wrap up video and want to know what the book is actually about, then just find the TBR for that month and you'll be able to find that out. I'm going to start with, actually no, I did read 10 books and I had another 5-star. I had 3 5-stars to finish the year on, so I was super happy. And I'm going to start with the first of those 5-star reads, which was a reread of, and it ended up being both the first book and the last book of the year, and that was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, which is book 1 in the Crescent City series. I've rated that on a 5-star again because it broke me, it gave me all the feels, and it was as good the first time as it was the second time. No, other way around. It was as good the second time as it was the first time. And so yeah, it had fantastic world building. I know people have complained that the book is really slow and they didn't enjoy it, but for me personally, I thought it was a gorgeous book. I loved the characters, I loved the world building, and yeah, it just, any book that can move me to actually crying is generally an automatic 5-star, 10 out of 10 for like atmosphere and emotions. So, you know. Second book on my list is going to be a physical, let's reach, is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I read Sorcery of Thorns a couple of years ago, thought it was 5 stars, loved it. This one was good, but I just didn't enjoy it as much. Again, I think it's because it was fae and fairies, and we all know by now how I feel about fae books, and I was intrigued by a lot of it, but I just feel like more could have been done to develop the characters. And I felt like the romance kind of just came out of nowhere, and it was like, oh yeah, like we get kind of like a very vague overview of their relationship, and then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, they're in love with each other, and you're like, oh okay, well we didn't actually see them, we're just told that they fought. Yeah, we didn't see them fall in love and we didn't like read them falling in love. We just kind of got told that they did, and it kind of took it away from me a little bit. And some of the storylines, like there was a Winter Court storyline, I really would have loved to have seen more. And there's a character in particular that I thought was so cool. Like she was my favourite in the book, but she was barely in it. And I was kind of like, ugh. So yeah, I actually ended up not really caring about the main characters all that much, and the big bad guy at the end I was just kind of disappointed in. It was like, oh yeah, here's a really big scary threat, oh it's done. Which is a bit of a problem. I know it can be a problem with standalones, but this one in particular I feel suffered from that, and it could have been, I would have seen this as a series, and I would have rather this been like 2 or 3 books to really flesh out the world and those characters. But it wasn't bad, it was enjoyable. The banter between them was great, and she is fantastic at writing like build-up scenes where there's like a build-up to tension. Like I really like her tension. So it wasn't horrendous, but it also wasn't my favourite for the month, and this was the only 3-star for the month. The next one was an audiobook and was the final book in the series, and that was Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. I read all 3 books during 2021, and this one, it was just a really nice way to wrap the year up with. And yet again, I loved this. I gave this one 4 stars, And yet again, it's the second book out of the trilogy where I identified so closely with the main character that I've now gone to my doctor and been like, hey, so do you think this? And the doctor's now gone, yes, I do. So we're going to look for a diagnosis. And with that, it was Eve, as she comes to realise that she may be autistic. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of what she was saying matches with me. And even ignoring all of that, the story itself was so good. It was really, really funny. I loved Eve's bubbly. I've realised that I kind of really like grouchy. I can't remember what the actual trope is called, but it's like where you get a really happy and a really grumpy character that are paired together. Like Jacob was gloriously grumpy and she was beautifully happy and sunny. And I really liked the way that the two worked together and gave each other new strengths and built each other's weaknesses up. The only thing I didn't like is I really do not enjoy Talia Hibbert's sex scenes. I find they start to go really trashy and tacky, and like I sit there and I'm, instead of getting like, you know, hot and bothered and really turned on, instead I'm sat there going, oh, this is getting really slimy and creepy now and I don't want to keep reading. Because her build up is probably some of the best I have ever seen. But then her actual execution kind of leaves me feeling wanting for more. And I also didn't like the conflict, because this one, all three books have had a point where there is a will they, won't they make it, and they have like a big fight and you think, oh, it's all over. And the first book, it felt good. It felt right. It felt natural. The second book, it felt a little bit like, really, that felt a bit overblown. This one, it just felt like, where the hell did this come from and why was it even necessary? So yeah, I didn't like that bit, but the rest of it was absolutely fantastic. Some of the best romance I've ever read. It's the best non-paranormal shifter type romance that I've read. And I recommend it to anyone who is interested in romance, but sort of more characters that have genuine development and have actual problems. And it's just so good to see a book that has that kind of disability rep and that gives people with these, I don't really want to say flaws, but people with these problems and people with these issues, and gives them that centre stage and puts them into a positive light despite the problems that they face. And I cannot appreciate that enough. The next on my list is My Hero Academia Volume 3. This was a 4-star read for me, because even though it is one of like my favourite arcs in the series, and in the actual anime this is one of my absolute favourite episodes, I know what's coming, and I know that as much as I love this book, there are other ones that are on their way that are going to be absolute 5-star smash it out of the parks, and I just feel like this one isn't quite at that calibre. This is the book where we first meet the villains and we really start to get an insight into the psychology of their leader, and we start to see things that make you start questioning, well, actually, is he actually right? Does he have a point? And you start to see some of the skills from the Class 1A that we haven't seen up until that point. And so that's why I think this one's a really solid and a crucial book in the series, and is probably going to end up, like when I finish the series, will be in like my top 5 of the books, because we start to really get that analysis and that sort of questioning. But like I said, as much as I love it, I know that there is more to come that is going to definitely be 5 stars. So 4 stars for this one. The next book on the list is another manga, and that is A Man and His Cat by Umi Sakurai. And oh my god, this one was my second 5-star read, because I basically cried with both sadness and happiness the whole way through this book. And it's just so gorgeous, because, you know, you've got this cat who, he's so scared that he's going to do something wrong and be sent back to the pet store. And then you got the new owner who's never had a cat before, who is so scared he's going to do something wrong and permanently scar the animal. and they're just sort of like navigating with each other and the way that they're bonding with each other. And I love that you get both of their thoughts and feelings. And it was just such a beautiful and true look at owning a cat. And it was like, when I was reading it, I was laughing because some of the stuff that was happening, my cats do exactly the same. It was so beautiful, and I can't wait to read the rest of the series. The next book on the list was my next 4-star read, which was Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is book 3 in the Lunar Chronicles series, and I can't really say much because we are at a very crucial spoilery point even at the very start of this book, but this introduces a new character to the group and takes the group into different directions, and I didn't enjoy it as much as Scarlet. I think so far the first book got 4 stars, second book got 5, this one got 4. I don't really like stories where they split the party, and this one did split the party, and at the end of this the party is still split. So I'm like, I just want to get back because one of my favourite characters is the one that's been separated. So we actually didn't really get any interaction with that, or barely any interaction with that character. And then we got more interaction with a character that I frankly don't give a damn about. But I did love Cress herself as a character, and she goes again from being this... It's again that theme of someone who's been a captive and is now taking back their life and doing what they want. And as we've worked out this year, I am a sucker for that. And it has left me at the end. I am extremely excited to finish the series, which there will be another video, either, I don't know if it's going to be before or after this one, where I talk about the series that I'm going to be completing in 2022. This one, 4-star, really enjoyed, but wasn't as good as the second book. Next book on the list was my first book of the month, which was Monstrous Volume 1 by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. I liked this. It was good. The artwork is 10 out of 5 stars. It was probably the most beautiful graphic novel I have ever seen, and if it stays at this level the whole way through the series, I think I will reread it over and over and over again just for how beautiful it is. But the storyline was very confusing. It wasn't until I got to the end that I started to actually piece together what was going on, because rather than build in the history and telling us as we go, it was like these little pages where they just info dump a load of stuff on us. And it was kind of like you get thrown into the middle of everything that's going on, but it came in at a really weird place. Like, I kind of wish it had started 3 weeks earlier, where we're being told what's about to happen and why she's there, rather than us being thrown in right at the action. And then a third of the way through the book, it then takes us back in time to explain why she's doing it and what's going on. And I just found it to be a little bit jumpy. Like, it did keep jumping around the storylines and all these different people. And I feel like we didn't quite get a good introduction to any character or a good explanation of who they are, what they're doing. But it has still got a lot of fantastic story in there, and a lot of the characters have left me very intrigued. One in particular that came in towards the end that I want to know more about him. So yeah, 5 out of 5 for art, 3 out of 5 for story. Overall came to 4 stars. We then have my last physical book for the month, which was For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. Not gonna lie, when I started this, for like the first 20 pages, I was a little bit not really bothered. I thought it was a bit boring. It wasn't until sort of chapter, I think, end of chapter 3, beginning of chapter 4, where the wolf comes in, that all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm now very interested in this. And a lot of people have complained, said that it's very similar to the plot of Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I've read Uprooted and I did not enjoy that book at all, whereas I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I enjoyed the relationships much more. The story got a little bit confusing towards the end. I think they tried to do a little bit too much too quickly, but I did really enjoy it. The only problem that I had with this is you follow both sisters, and it was kind of like I was really interested in Radaris and Aemon. their story, I could have sat and watched and read that for like the entire book. But her sister, who, it tells you how much I don't care that I've already forgotten the sister's name. Is it like, I don't even remember her sister's name now. Navira. Her story I was a little bit, yeah. And I know that the second book is going to be focusing on her more. So I'm a little bit like, I really hope that it's going to be better. But I think it was more, I didn't like the characters surrounding Neve, whereas I loved all of the characters that were surrounding Red. And so I think that might just be it. And from what I can tell from the second book, the character that Neve spends the most time with is kind of like the big bad. So I am kind of excited to find out where that's going to go. And there were a few like turns and twists I didn't see coming. So overall, I did end up really enjoying this one. And I can see why people have said that they don't like it overly because they feel it had more of a YA feel to it than an adult. Like, I get that, I understand, but this is an adult, and I feel like this is a fantastic one for people like me who are, like, this year I've read a lot more adult books, but I'm still kind of nervous about going into reading adult fantasy, because just the heaviness and how thick they are. Like, you'll discover, I've got a couple of videos coming up where I'm going to be talking about certain books that I want to either buddy read or like my 22 in 22. And both of those do have quite a lot of sort of more adult fantasy because, like I said, I am nervous to get into them and I might just need a little push to do it. And I felt this was a really great stepping stone into that. So, you know, it might not be to everyone's tastes and some people might prefer another author, but for me, I thought this was really good. Like, personally, I'm not a fan of Naomi Novik, but I really enjoyed this. I think it was more my style of writing. And yeah, so I just thought this was a really good, nice book with a great character, good relationship building, and set up really well for the second one. So this one was 4 stars. And then my final book of December was an ebook that I actually got gifted as an ARC months ago, and then my mental health tanked right as I got accepted for it. And that was All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. And I adored this book. It was so good. I loved how we got to actually know about each of the families. I liked that it had the book that had been written and you got little snippets that started each chapter off from that book, so you sort of knew roughly what was coming up. I liked all of the character building. And even though we didn't get to know every single champion really in detail, the fact that we focused on more than just 2 or 3 or even 1, as was in certain other books like The Hunger Games, we actually got a really good distribution of, I think there was like 4? Yeah, 4 of the champions. We actually got their point of views on things and we followed them. And I thought that was really nice that we didn't just have that one channel. About the only problem that I had with this book was I expected the characters to be a lot more actually evil and a lot more actually like doing horrible things to each other, as like was implied that they are actually all villains, when in fact it turns out that it's a curse that their families are under, and they, very similar to other series, they have no choice in this. They're chosen, and if they don't take part, then they will die anyway. So it kind of was more, even though they have to do evil things, they themselves, there was only actually one who I would say is a genuine villain and enjoyed the killing and the bloodshed. But everyone else was just kind of like in a, we have to do this, we're stuck doing it, and it's very reluctant that they're doing it. And I kind of wanted a little bit more of the actual villainous storyline that I thought it was going to be. But I definitely enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the concept. I thought everything was broken down really well. The relationships were fantastic, and I'm now extremely excited for the second book. So that was my last 5-star read. And yeah, like I said, it was a fantastic end to the year, considering how much I'd been struggling to read throughout autumn. I ended up reading more books, I think more books in December than I did in the previous 3 months combined. So I definitely got my mojo back a little bit. I think part of it was just that end of year, desperate to feel like I've done something in the last half of the year. Partly it was also the reindeer readathon, like that really got me boosted and really inspired. And then also there's that new year setting of new goals, so you kind of want to feel productive. But yeah, it really did help sort of end the year off in a really great way, and it has left me very excited to carry on reading into 2022, and I have already completed one read and I'm nearly done with another, so I am really happy with that. It was a fantastic end to the year. So that was my December wrap up, and yeah, if you haven't already, check out my January TBR. It has already been uploaded and I have brought back my game that I invented last year. But yeah, let me know how your December went. How many reads did you have? What was your favourite read, or what was your least favourite read? And yeah, until next time, I hope you're good, I hope you're staying safe, and I will see you on the next video. Bye!